Part 249. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2485. Entering the Daming Palace by boat, Man Bao found that the Daming Palace looked even more wild. Daming Palace had a short renovation opportunity after the Emperor-Empress Dowager brought Prince Gong and Mingda several princely daughters to escape the summer. Unfortunately, it was very short. It was closed again due to funding problems within 2 months, and the 2 months was only a short period of time. But one of the half-built palaces was only built, but the palace was empty after it was built, and there was no furniture or anything in it. Later, the emperor was always very poor, and the inner treasury was in a state of making ends meet. The treasury was strictly controlled by the courtiers. As long as he showed the intention of building the Daming Palace, the imperial censors from Wei Ji down to the 6th rank would write to discourage them. It is only considered civil security, and it is still a long way from Cathay Pacific. It is really not good to overhaul the civil engineering at this time. The emperor listened to the persuasion, and later left the Daming Palace behind. Afterwards, it is not good to keep filial piety, and it is not good to carry out construction projects. Last year, it was a Western expedition, and the national treasury ran out of money, so Daming Palace, well, not to mention the construction, even the repairs were not enough, so the grass and trees grew a little wanton. Full of Bao stood on the boat and looked at the weeds on both sides of the strait, and shook his head slightly, feeling that the emperor's house is good. There are so many houses, and it can be abandoned like this. At the ferry, the servant stopped the boat and let Zhou Man get off the boat. Man Bao went ashore and went on foot to see the palace being remodeled by the Ministry of Works. There are not many people here, and now they are basically people from the Ministry of Industry and servants. Only this time the emperor failed to build the palace, but wanted to transform it. The emperor asked the Ministry of Industry to select the 2 largest palaces and directly build walls and seal them up. At that time, the princesses will be in one palace, the princes will be in the same palace, and men and women will be vaccinated separately, and people inside can only enter but not go out. Between the 2 palaces, a long alleyway was built for the imperial physician to go back and forth between the 2 palaces. Therefore, once the members of the royal family live in, the 2 palaces will be sealed, and even the food will be sent in by hanging baskets. The reason for being so cautious is because this is the Daming Palace, which is too close to the Taiji Palace, in order to avoid the smallpox being exposed. Originally, all vaccinations should be taken to Huangchuang, which is the safest place. It's a pity that the emperor is reluctant to let his children and grandchildren suffer grievances. There are 6 people living in a room in Huangchuang, and it is an urgently built house mixed with earth and stone, which is not comparable to the palace here in Daming Palace. Here, at least one person can be guaranteed a room. That's right, this is a room for one person. The emperor made a long screen to divide the big room into 2 rooms. In one room, not only a little princess, etc., the princess and the county can live. The masters can also bring a maid to serve. Well, the maids selected are also around 16 years old, and they all have to get acne like their masters. If there are no accidents in the future, they will always serve their masters. Man Baolei's inspection is to check whether the 2 palaces are really sealed, and there is no secret way to pass things inside and outside. This kind of thing is not a big problem in Huangchuang, but it is a big taboo in the palace. It is also necessary to check whether the medicine hall prepared for their imperial hospital is compliant, as well as the hygiene of the palace. After Man Bao checked the work for today, she grabbed her hands and raised her neck to watch the craftsmen busy. She felt that with their fine work for today, it would take a lot of money to build the rest of the Daming Palace. For several years, that was when the emperor was very rich. If you can't pay for it, I'm afraid it won't be able to build it for more than 10 years. Man Bao shook his head, wrote down the progress of their project, and left. It's almost time for her to go to the office. When she returns to the Taiji Palace by boat, it should be almost the time for her to go to the office. Well, she has to walk back to the Taiji hospital, which is very far. But thinking of the makeup box in the Thai hospital, she was full of motivation. Man Bao happily hugged the makeup box and went out of the palace, and before he went out, he saw Bai Shan who was waiting outside the palace gate. Man Bao immediately stepped forward with a smile, and the guards checked her makeup box and stared at her with piercing eyes. Man Bao said generously, "This is what Princess Gong gave me." Of course, the guards didn't think it was a bribe, but a reward. Zhou Man was one of the most rewarded foreign ministers they knew. King Gong and the former king of Yizhu are not counted. The guards cast an envious glance at her, wrote down what she brought out today, and then let go. As soon as she came out, Bai Shan stretched out her hand to take the makeup box, and his hand sank. He steadied and asked, "Why did Princess Gong give you a present?" Man Bao said, "Get in the car and talk." Daji came to pick them up and go home. When he got to the car, Man Bao rubbed his pantothenic arm and said, "This is Princess Gong's bribe, but it's just to add makeup to me." Man Bao paused and said, "King Gong definitely doesn't know about this. I think their husband and wife will definitely quarrel when they go back." Bai Shan was puzzled, "Why quarrel?" After thinking about it, Man Bao said, "If I give Lu Yu a very expensive gift in private, and say that you want me to give it, will you be angry?" The relationship between Bai Shan and Lu Yu is not very good, basically because they are both students of Chongquen Museum. They maintain a harmonious relationship on the surface. Well, there is also Zhao Liaolang in the middle to reconcile. If Man Bao gave Lu Yu something privately, and said that he gave it, it would fall in Lu Yu's eyes, then Bai Shan was begging for peace with him, and Bai Shan would definitely be angry. Bai Shan glanced at her, "Will you give Lu Yu a gift?" Man Bao shook his head, "We have nothing to do with him. Not to mention that we didn't ask him where we were, even if we did, our attitude towards things was not in harmony, so naturally we wouldn't ask." She paused and said, "But Princess Gong is a gentle person. It's just too gentle, so he can't be the master of King Gong, and it's even difficult to influence the other party." Zhou Man thought it was not bad. Prince Gong and Princess Gong did quarrel. It should be said that Prince Gong unilaterally scolded Princess Gong to tears. On the other side, the couple in the main hall of Taiji Hall was the queen who was scolding the emperor. "Sanlang's daughter-in-law wants to give Zhou Man a gift. Why did you order it in front of Saburo? Didn't you say that Saburo's daughter-in-law wants to ease their relationship with Zhou Man?" "Empress, but do you think Saburo seems willing? You don't know what his temper is." After pointing it out, he only felt embarrassed. In the end, it was Saburo's wife who was wronged, and the relationship may not be able to ease. She said, "It's better to let Saburo's daughter-in-law send it quietly. It doesn't matter whether Zhou Man and Saburo have a good relationship, she and Saburo's daughter-in-law have a good relationship. This is the survival wisdom of the back house. Except for some unsolvable grievances, other festivals are your men competing against you, and we also have our own friendship." In fact, Zhou Man and Prince Gong did not have any actual deep hatred, but they had different positions because of their positions as princes. Zhou Man has never done any damage. What she has done has always been to cure the disease and save people, but it was only the prince who was saved. So the queen thinks that as long as the time is long enough, the grievances between them can be reduced. Regardless of whether they exist or not, Zhou Man is an upright person and will not harm others for this. It's a bad thing done with good intentions. See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2486. Because of the gift from others, Man Bao worried about Princess Gong's marital relationship in her heart, but it was only for a moment. She turned her head and asked Bai Shan with bright eyes, "The imperial physicians will to upgrade the product is sent to Zhongsha province?" "Yes, Bai Shan said, I'm just drafting it. This imperial decree is very heavy, and it will definitely require adults to draft it, and the provincial government will need to review it. No matter how fast it is, we will have to wait until tomorrow. Man Bao opened the drawer on the side, took out a plate of snacks from it, and said while eating, you said that the imperial physician's office is upgraded, will I be promoted? Bai Shan thought for a while and then said, half of it? If you don't get promoted, the imperial court will definitely add some officials to the imperial physician's office. It is of the same rank as the 6th department of Shangzhou, and even the official position must be on par with the 6th department, and some positions cannot be held by doctors. Man Bao nodded and waited. However, the imperial decree was not issued the next day, and was delayed for 3 consecutive days until Xiao Yuanzhang thought that something had changed before issuing it. As soon as the imperial edict came out, Man Bao and Xiao Yuanzhang breathed a sigh of relief. If it weren't for Bai Shan's internal news coming back in the past 3 days, she would have been unable to bear it. First, when the Zhongshu province drafted the imperial decree, it listed the details of the official position of the imperial physician office, and sent it to the Mengxia province. Later, the emperor convened a small court meeting. This time, Xiao Yuanzhang and Lu Tai also attended, but during that time, they quarreled for a long time because the office space of the Tai office was built in the inner city, the imperial city and the palace city. After finally deciding that the imperial physician's office, like the Quazijian, set up a special place to handle affairs next to its teaching, Taikang Temple finally expressed its opposition to the independence of the imperial physician's office. Minister of Rites seconded. Well, the Ministry of Rites and Taikang Temple have always been better. In fact, Man Bao said that the Ministry of Rites and Taikang Temple have a lot of overlapping responsibilities. They can be combined and then removed from Taikang Temple. However, she didn't dare to say it, Xiao Yuanzhang just pretended not to have heard it, and the complaints of children should not be taken seriously. After 3 days of back and forth review and 3-day Xiaoqiao meeting, Mengxia province finally approved the decree and official document sent by Zhongshu province, and then sent the decree and official document to the Ministry of Rites, and then sent a copy to the Ministry of Household and Officials. Ministry and Ministry of Industry, as well as Taikang Temple, this matter is settled. Xiao Yuanzhang knew the news in advance, and on this day, he deliberately wore a brand new official uniform to enter the palace. As usual, Man Bao couldn't help looking at it, but couldn't help but ask, Xiao Yuanzhang, where did your new official uniform come from? She has grown fast this year, and the official uniform issued at the beginning of the year is a bit short. Although it is not obvious, her wrists are indeed slightly exposed, which is a little different from the long sleeves of other officials. Xiao Yuanzhang glanced at her and said, there is an embroidery workshop outside that specializes in making up clothes. Didn't Imperial Dr. Zhou find an embroidery workshop to make official uniforms? Man Bao shook his head. Because she lived in the palace a few years ago, she seldom wore official uniforms except for big court meetings. Otherwise, she only had 2 sets of official uniforms. What should I do? After all, she still wears the most clothes this year, because she doesn't live in the palace anymore, and every time she leaves Huangzhuang to go to the palace on business, she has to wear official uniforms. Man Bao glanced down at his sleeves, and quietly smoothed them out. They wore too much, washed a lot, and their color faded a little. Anyway, they definitely couldn't compare to Xiao Yuanzhang's spirit and good looks today. Man Bao asked him curiously, which embroidery workshop did you do it in? Dayo Cloth Village, which also sells all kinds of fabrics, and many officials in the court make supplementary clothes there. Imperial physician Lu on the side said, I did it there too. Zheng Tai smiled, my family is also looking for Dayo Buzwang. Dr. Lu, me too. Man Bao felt that she was behind. She was the only one who didn't find anyone to make official uniforms, and all the clothes were issued by the imperial court. Zheng Tai, who didn't know the imperial decree, looked at Xiao Yuanzheng curiously. Yuanzhen's face is rosy and energetic today, is this a happy event? Xiao Yuanzheng raised a smile and said, happy together, everyone has a happy event. Everyone's spirits were lifted. Could it be that the princes of the court felt that they had worked hard for more than half a year and decided to reward them with some more money? It is impossible to get promoted. It is not every meritorious service that will lead to promotion. After all, that is also your responsibility, right? Merit that exceeds the duty is generally rewarded with gold, silver, rice noodles, and cloth. These things are also very tempting. Just thinking about it, the Minister of Rites personally came to issue the decree with the imperial decree. All the imperial physicians were shocked. What kind of reward, to have the Minister of Rites personally issue the decree? Everyone followed Xiao Yuanzheng to the gate of the main entrance of the Taiyuan hospital to listen to the order. When Zhou Man and Bai Shan and Bai Chen went to Jizi to plan the imperial physician's office, they came in accordance with the duties and regulations of the imperial college. Qiaozijian directs teaching institutions across the country, and is also responsible for publishing books and educating people. In the same way, the imperial physician's office is responsible for the medical institutions in the whole country. In the future, it will set up official medical offices all over the country like the Imperial College, which will be responsible for part of the medical security of the people, as well as the dissemination of medical knowledge. Physicians are sent across the country. The emperor and courtiers are not stupid, and it is natural to see that they borrowed from Qiaozijian, so they also borrowed from Qiaozijian when establishing official positions. This is also the reason for their quarrel in the past 3 days. Mengxia province has been going back and forth for reals and debates with Zhongsha province. Sometimes the errands have to run back and forth 5 or 6 times a day, until Zhongsha province has set it up to go out. Regulations that the province deems eligible. The Zhongsha province downgraded the imperial physician's office from the 3rd rank mentioned by the emperor to the 3rd rank, and at the same time set up 2 imperial physician chiefs under it, which are the 4th rank. The imperial decree was very long, and the servant of the Ministry of Rites recited it for a long time, and except for the appointment of Xiao Yuanzheng by the imperial physician department, all other positions have not been fixed, or they have not been fixed for the time being. Except for Xiao Yuanzheng and Man Bao, the other imperial physicians were stunned. The imperial physicians, who were seldom involved in government affairs, and only focused on the harem, medicine, and smallpox, suddenly learned of this news, and they were so shocked that they didn't know how to react. Xiao Yuanzheng received the imperial decree on behalf of the Taiyuan hospital, and then sent the Minister of Gifts out. The Minister of Rites smiled and saluted Xiao Yuanzheng. Congratulations to Mr. Xiao. From today onwards, they are no longer equal. Alas, I am really envious. Xiao Yuan was thanking her with a smile, and then sent the person out. When she came back, she saw everyone around Zhou Man asking questions. There was nothing she could do. She acted too calm. At first glance, she knew the inside story. Who wouldn't surround her? But she didn't say a word, and everyone had no choice. When they saw Xiao Yuanzheng, they gathered around them. Yuanzheng, how can the Imperial Medical Office be upgraded, but our Imperial Hospital has fallen to the next level? Xiao Yuanzheng, it's not down, the Imperial Hospital is still a 4th-grade yamen, but it no longer belongs to Taikang Temple, and will belong to our Imperial Medical Office in the future. Then what should we do? Someone asked. Will we have 2 jobs in the future, or will we only be able to work in the Imperial Hospital or the Imperial Physician's Office? This is a good question, because Xiao Yuanzheng is not sure. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yuzu. Chapter 2487. The grades of the imperial physicians in the imperial hospital remain unchanged. Zhou Man is still a 5th grade imperial physician, and she still has the post of editor of the Chongguan Museum. She calculated in her heart that if she could still be a high-ranking official in the imperial physician office, wouldn't she have 3 jobs? All 3 positions are real positions, and real positions mean not only salary, but also employment fields. Dajin doesn't actually give officials a lot of money. Taking Manbeo as an example, she can now earn about $10 to $12 a month in the pharmacy and medical clinic outside, and the medical fees for outpatient clinics are basically owned by herself. The pharmacy only asks for the medicinal materials to come out of their pharmacy. But her current imperial doctor's salary is only 3,600 yuan a month, which is far lower than the price outside the courtroom. Because for officials, their income does not mainly come from stipends, or even from lumi, but from the income of employment fields. Generally speaking, real jobs with official rank generally have job fields. If not, then the salary must be high, and other benefits will follow accordingly, such as doctors in the Imperial College. Although it may be hard to think about having 3 jobs, it seems to be very profitable. Man Bao was a little moved. So he and the other imperial physicians looked at Xiao Yuanzheng with bright eyes. Xiao Yuanzheng waved his hand and said, "Don't look at me, everything is waiting to be done. Now before the imperial physician office is different, I can't be the master alone, but I will fight for you." In the past, the imperial physician's office was an institution under the imperial physician's hospital to train doctors. It didn't even have a rank. It was all supported by the Crown Prince and the Imperial Physicians' Hospital. Therefore, the ministers would not only discuss a few words when they needed money from the national treasury, but also about matters in the Imperial Physicians' Office. Basically it is up to the prince and himself to decide. But in fact, the prince didn't care much about the Imperial Physicians' Office, so the Xiao Yuan was in charge of all rounding. It's obviously impossible now. Xiao Yuanzheng went to the emperor to hold a small court meeting together. Well, he is also qualified now, as long as he wants to, he can participate in the small court meeting every day. In fact, Xiao Yuan is a little lack of confidence to meet these adults of the same rank as him, so he doesn't really want to participate. Yet he had no other choice. The Imperial Physician's Office has not yet made a decision except for an order of the Imperial Physician's Office, so he had to come to participate. In any case, the chief of the Imperial Physician's Office has to be decided first, so as to recruit troops. No, it is to fill the vacancy. Because he was his subordinate, he recommended him first. Xiao Yuan had already thought about all the people in the Tai hospital on his way there, so when he arrived at the imperial study room, he recommended 2 people directly to the emperor. Lu said, "The imperial physician and the imperial physician of Zhou can be the minister's deputy." The ministers at the meeting expressed their opposition, not because they were against the Xiao Yuan, but because, the 2 chiefs of the imperial physician's office cannot both come from the imperial hospital, only one of them needs to be proficient in medicine, and the other still needs to understand the imperial court. This technique, the chief of the imperial physician office is to assist the imperial physician's office in order to manage the imperial physician's office. Wei Ji suggested, this minister thinks that someone should be transferred from other places to assist Xiao Yuan in the construction of the imperial physician's office. Others, especially the minister of officials, agreed. How can the management of a department be so simple? The Imperial Physician Office does not only need imperial physicians who know medical skills, otherwise, how is it different from the Imperial Hospital that only treats people? In terms of eloquence and reasoning, Xiao Yuan couldn't say enough about these bosses, so he was also persuaded. On the calculation of the required amount of medicinal materials in various places, the reasonable planning of the purchase of medicinal materials, the construction and optimal number of new medical offices each year, and the management of the relationship between the imperial medical office and the local medical office. The imperial physician is very powerful, or did he have the experience of local officials, managed the state and county, and studied hard for more than 10 years as a Jinchi or Mingjing. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that the imperial physician's office was a relatively technical department, they wouldn't even want to reserve the position of the head of the imperial physician's office for Xiao Yuanzheng. Because these elders do not trust the management level of these doctors from the bottom of their hearts. So, imperial physician Lu and Zhou Man, you can choose one. But in fact, everyone did not give Xiao Yuanzheng a chance to choose. Zhou Man now has 2 jobs. Whether it is technical, qualifications, or personal energy considerations, Imperial Dr. Lu is the most suitable. However, someone suggested that Zhou Man could be transferred from Chongguan Hall to the Imperial Physician's office. Anyway, they were all 4th rank, and the chief of the Imperial Physician's office was still a 4th rank official, which was considered a promotion. But not to mention Wei Ji and Lord Tang, even Xiao Yuanzheng, a person who was not very clever in everyone's hearts, strongly objected. He is not stupid, knowing that Zhou Man's benefits in Chongguan Museum are far greater than those in the Imperial Physician's office. Not to mention that the Imperial Physician's office is a newly established department, only the official status and social status are different. Chongguan Hall is filled with civil servants, and its status in the officialdom is the same as that of the Hanlin Academy and Kuazijian of the same rank. It is a place of honesty, no oil and water, but a noble status. Zhou Man is much better than in the Imperial Physician's office, not to mention that the Imperial Physician's office is only half grade, even if he is 1 grade higher. So Xiao Yuanzheng directly appointed Lu Imperial Physician as the chief of the Imperial Physician office. Many imperial doctors in Manbao and Taiyuan Hospital knew nothing about it. They were discussing the boxing ceremony issued by the imperial court during the Mid-Autumn Festival this year. Well, boxing is to go to the Ministry of Household to collect it, but there is a list for them. After taking the list, take it back and pick it up according to the list. Boxing is given by position, not head, so Manbao has 2. She watched happily. Imperial physician Zheng leaned forward to look at her list, and was envious. Dr. Zhou actually has a jar of bamboo leaves? Manbao said, last year it was chrysanthemum wine, why is it bamboo leaf green today? Zuyecking is much better than chrysanthemum wine, Zheng Tai said quickly. If Zhou Tai wants chrysanthemum wine, why don't I replace it with you? Forget it, I don't drink, Manbao said. These wines are taken back for my father and my brothers to drink. Imperial physician Lu said, looking at this, the treasury should have harvested a lot this year, and the treatment is better than in previous years. Manbao thought for a moment and said, this year, the weather in the suburbs of Beijing and Yangzhou has been good. At least her 2 big job fields have gained a lot. Dr. Lu knew more and smiled. I heard that this year only Taiyuan has suffered a drought, and Jingzhou has floods, but they are all very serious. There will be floods and droughts every year. After all, the world is so big, how is it possible that every place has good weather? It's just that the localities can bear the floods and droughts that are not particularly serious, and the more serious capital will help out. So overall this year has been a good year. Because everything went well this year, the emperor was very happy. As soon as he was happy, the courtiers also beamed with joy. Apart from the fact that the royal family is still in the period of filial piety, the people have decided to have a good time for the Mid-Autumn Festival this year. It was only August 12th, and it was already lively outside. See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2488. Manbao took the note and ran to the imperial city to get things, and found that the queue was long and long. She estimated the time and turned around in dejection. Bai Shan also took a note to get something, and the 2 bumped into each other. Bai Shan looked at her, then looked at the long queue, and suggested, if you don't want to take it back, let someone pick it up tomorrow. Man Bao sighed, I originally wanted to get one myself. She felt that it was a pleasure to receive gifts. Bai Shan thought so too, but they didn't have that much time to line up. The two walked back side by side. Bai Shan looked around, and whispered to her, the chief of the Imperial Physician's office has settled down, one is Imperial Physician Lu, the other is Master Shi, who was transferred from the Ministry of Housing, and his name is Shi Bin. Man Bao was startled and asked, why are you transferred from the Ministry of Housing, is there no one in our hospital? She also looked left and right, and said in a low voice, I can do it too. A smile flashed in Bai Shan's eyes, and he lowered his voice and said, the adults said that you already have 2 jobs, if you have another job, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep busy. Past. Man Bao was not stupid, and immediately said, forget it, I'll fix my book and see a doctor in the future. Bai Shan shook his head and said, it's definitely not like this, your medical skills are so good, Xiao Yuan wants you to pass on your medical skills. When I was replaced, they were discussing whether to let you be a doctor of the Imperial Physician's office or be a master bookkeeper. Man Bao was stunned and immediately said, I don't want to be the master bookkeeper, I want to be a doctor. Although the doctoral level is much lower than that of the master book, she belongs to the academic officer, as long as teaching is good, and there are very few other chores. She does not point to the promotion of the official position of the Imperial Physician Office, so she does not want to manage the chores, and just wants to teach. Bai Shan nodded, I think so too, but unfortunately I can't speak, but it doesn't matter, the will can be changed before it is made. If your Majesty asks me, I will tell you. This is the advantage of having someone in front of the Emperor. Bai Shan is walking in front of the Emperor, and the Emperor will always chat with him. It is enough to confide a word or two of this meaning when chatting. As for how it will develop, it can only be seen by God's will. Bai Shan returned to the Hanlin Academy, and after finishing his work, he went to pick up Manbaoxia Yat. The two took back 3 notes and handed them over to their family, let the servants go to line up tomorrow to get things. Old Zhou Tiou, who had received the boxing several times, immediately said, I will go in person. He smiled and said, we have nothing to do anyway, just leave this kind of thing to us. Hearing this, Bai Shan simply handed over his note to Lao Zhutu, and let him take it with him. Lu Sunyang has no grade yet, so she has no boxing, but Lao Zhutu is very confident that she and Lai Ru will both receive boxing in the future. The next day, Lao Zhutu deliberately changed into new clothes, and then went to collect things with the servants of the Bai family. Man Bao and Bai Shan went to work as usual. Today, Bai Shan was lucky. He was called into the palace to attend a small court meeting after he arrived at the Hanlin Academy. Well, as an observer, he occasionally took notes for the emperor. Of course, he wouldn't leave after the Xiaoqiao meeting. Instead, he would hide and eat a quick working meal with Ziwihu Lang, and then continued to watch the emperor in a daze. Qi Zhulang was in a hurry to eat just now and felt a little choked, so he couldn't stop looking at Bai Shan. After working with him for a few months, Bai Shan, who already knew each other, understood and quietly got up and touched a cup of tea to give him a drink. Qi Zhulang kept writing, seeing that nothing big happened at the moment, and after being able to summarize it in 1 sentence, he picked up the tea and took a sip. He didn't dare to drink too much, otherwise he would have to run to the latrine, and they should try their best to control the number of times they left the emperor's sight. No, it was the number of times the emperor was taken out of their sight. Bai Shan was not needed for the time being, so Bai Shan poured a little water into the inkstone and silently rubbed ink on the inkstone. In the afternoon, the emperor had almost approved the book, and felt a little tired, so he got up and went out for a walk. Well, he called Bai Shan at random. So Bai Shan got up and followed, while Zhou Zhulang slowly got up and followed silently. The emperor planned to play chess with Bai Shan, but he found that although Bai Shan was young, his chess skills were good, a little worse than him, so he could play together. Like Wei Ji, he doesn't like playing chess with each other. So many imperial walks, why does he like to find Bai Shan? Because after a few months of development, the two of them are still chess friends. Bai Shan also likes to play chess with the emperor, because he can't beat the opponent at the moment, but after each game, he consciously makes some progress. This is a very challenging thing, so he likes it very much. Gu Zhong led the people to put down the chessboard and took 2 steps back, smiling and standing aside to watch. The emperor was very generous and let Bai Shan take the lead. Bai Shan was also used to it. He brought the chess jar with the white pieces over, and first twisted a white piece and dropped it. The emperor likes to talk while playing chess. I heard that your family bought you a house in the inner city as a wedding room. When is the date for you and Zhou Man coming? Bai Shan responded with a yes and then said, it will be the 8th day of October. The emperor nodded and counted the time. When Zhou Man came out of the Daming Palace, there was still 1 month to prepare for the marriage, which was enough. While playing chess, the emperor couldn't help teasing him, if you become a relative, you are an adult, but your official position is much smaller than Zhou Man. When you become a relative, who will be the master of your family? Bai Shan thought for a while and then said, of course the two of us will call the shots together, but I'll let her. The emperor didn't expect him to answer so seriously. He couldn't help laughing, and said casually, yes, you are all good ministers, just don't make conflicts at home. Bai Shan pursed his lips and smiled and said, I have always been on good terms with her, so there won't be any conflicts. The emperor glanced at him with a half smile, really, but I still remember that when I first met you in Yazhu, the two of you quarreled a lot. Bai Shan was stunned for a moment, then said embarrassedly, we weren't bickering, we just had different opinions, so we were arguing. Even Gu Zhong couldn't help laughing out loud. The emperor also laughed for a while, and simply said to him, Zhou Man is a capable minister, her talent in medicine is unparalleled, I can't bear her, so I want her to take a part-time job in the imperial physician office. What do you think? Is the master book more suitable, or the doctor? Bai Shan didn't answer immediately, but after thinking for a while, he said, Your Majesty, there is no shortage of officials in the court, and you also said that her greatest strength lies in her talent and achievements in medicine. In this case, she is naturally a doctor. Most suitable. But looking at the book she posted before, it is clear that she has a good plan for the imperial physician's office. Xiao Yuanzheng is still less than 1/10 of hers. Bai Shandao, Your Majesty, she is still the editor of the Chongguan Pavilion, and a 5th-grade imperial doctor of the imperial hospital. The former, she writes medical books, and the latter, she is under Xiao Yuanzhen's orders. The emperor raised his eyebrows and understood that if it was just a plan with the same overall situation, Zhou Man would be able to give advice to Xiao Yuanzhen even if he didn't become the master bookkeeper. But the master book grade is higher than that of the doctor. The emperor looked at Bai Shan up and down, and asked with a smile, why, are you worried that she will have another official position higher than yours? The head of the imperial physician's office is grade 6. Unfortunately, it is still 1 grade higher than Bai Shan. Bai Shan said seriously, Your Majesty, she is still young and needs to grow up, so she can't be too tired. Besides, we will have a baby after we get married. The emperor was stunned for a moment, then he looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. For the first time, he reached out and patted Bai Shan on the shoulder, clapping loudly, Okay, good boy. See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2489. Olds Hutu lined up in a group of people with a note. The stewards of each family came to pick up the things, and naturally there were also officials and family members who came to pick it up in person. In the past 2 years, Lao Tzu personally came to collect the salary that was full of treasures. Now he doesn't need his grandchildren to show him the note. He closed his eyes and knew how much salary and lumi he could receive every month. So every time he brought someone to lead it alone. Also because of the many times he came, he met many people here. These salaried people also have circles, and his circle is the family members of a group of officials. In this group, there are fathers like him, uncles, and younger brothers. The common feature of these people is that the family assets are not particularly rich, and the official rank ranges from 6 to 4. Another thing in common is that they are not natives of Beijing. Because they are not natives of the capital, and because their family property is not abundant, and the consumption of the capital is too high, so their family invites few servants, and the family members come to get the salary in person. It was also because of their interactions with them that the old Zhutu knew that many people would bring their brothers and nephews to their posts after they became officials, so that they could not only help manage the housework, but also run errands for themselves, and leave some things to the servants. Is not assured. At the same time, it also means raising family members. Or else, one person can get the way. Old Zhutu brought a servant and pulled a car over, and with a glance, he found the line, so he went up to line up. Everyone consciously lined up in 2 rows, one row was for the servants of various households, and the other row was for officials and family members like Lao Zhutu. As soon as he saw Lao Zhutu, someone immediately greeted him warmly, "Lao Zhou is here, come quickly, come quickly." Lao Zhutu asked the servants to line up with the mule cart, while he stepped forward and chatted with his friends. In fact, he barely formed a formation. Master Zhou has 2 boxing gifts, right? Not more, shouldn't it be 3 copies? Lord Zhou still has a title. The old Zhutu smiled and said, "My family Manbeo said that the ceremony of the title is listed on the note compiled by the Chongguan Museum, which is regarded as 2 gifts on 1 note. Only those who have the title but have no real position are listed separately." Slip. When everyone heard this, they suddenly realized, and they all complimented old Zhou for his knowledge. Old Zhou smiled proudly. Although it is not as comfortable as the village, they still speak very nicely, which is why old Zhou is always rushing to get his salary. "What's on your note?" 2 pieces of cloth, and some high rice noodles. "It doesn't matter. I heard that the moon cakes given this time were made in the palace. The boss is the one. The kids eat." Old Zhutu quietly looked at his note, and it was difficult to identify it. He recognized a few numbers, but he didn't know mooncakes. By the way, Man Bao said last night that their family had mooncakes. Lao Zhutu thought hard, and found that his memory was a little fuzzy, and he was a little worried. The old man on the side saw the note in old Zhutu's hand, so he took a look and said, "There are 4 mooncakes for the villager." "Hey, why do you have 3 notes?" Old Zhou instantly recovered and smiled, "This one belongs to my son-in-law. I took it with me." "Come, show me, what is on this piece." The old man was a little envious and jealous, but he took it over and read it to him: 1 fine linen, 1 thick cotton, 1 small bag of zimixi noodles, and 1 mooncake. "Hey, you son-in-law doesn't have much stuff." The old Zhutu said, "He is an official, and his official position is not high. Look at the bottom, he is still a county, and see what is below." The old man choked for a moment, and then unfolded it. Sure enough, he saw 2 lines of small characters written on the bottom: 2 pieces of fine cotton, 2 pieces of silk satin, 2 bags of zimi 11 noodles each, and 4 mooncakes. Old man, envy. People, I'm so envious. The old Zhutu whispered twice, and temporarily remembered it, and then quickly showed the old man his daughter's note, looking at it eagerly. The old man said, "I just read it, but you won't be able to remember it when I get there in a while. The people you brought from your family are illiterate." Old Zhou said, I was so happy when I came out this morning, I forgot to call someone who can read. The old man said, "Forget it, I'll walk behind you in a while, go in with you, and I'll take it after you finish." "Oh, I'm so sorry." Old Zhutu smiled until his eyes were bent, and said to him, "Then I'm welcome. Next time you come to receive your salary, I'll invite you to eat beans." Occasionally, when Lao Zhutu was greedy, he would ask Xiao Qian to fry some beans for him, and even the fried beans were better than others, and these friends he knew liked it very much. "How long have you been in a relationship? What are you polite?" Everyone was gossiping with Old Joe. "Old Joe, Master Joe, and your son-in-law are not too young, right? Are you getting married?" The old Zhutu said happily, "It's not just about getting married, the date has already been set, the 8th day of the 10th lunar month." "Good day, congratulations, congratulations, we'll beg for a drink then." Happy together, Lao Zhutu squinted his eyes and blurted out, "Don't say a cup, then you can drink as much as you want." Some honestly listened to polite words, but some people's eyes flickered, holding Lao Zhutu with a smile. "Then we will come to the door to Harris. By the way, do you want to post at the wedding banquet?" Old Joe was startled. He really went. He didn't mind it, but they were not very close relatives and friends who had to give gifts for the banquet, so how could they be in a hurry to give gifts? But the thought flashed, and old Joe Tiu smiled and said, "I'll bring you the next salary." The old man who read the note to Lao Zhutu didn't say anything. When the team moved further and further, more people came forward to take things and left, and fewer people surrounded them. Then he pulled Lao Zhutu and said in a low voice, "Old Joe, this guest is very particular, right? You must not ask the children at home." Old Zhutu was also more able to tell him, looked left and right and lowered his voice, "Of course I have to ask, my daughter-in-law has already said it, we haven't read the book, we don't know much, we can't make our own decisions about the outside world. You have to ask the kids. Then you have to take a bite." The old Zhutu said indifferently, "What are you afraid of? Wait for me to go back and ask my daughter, if you can, please. If you can't, please, I won't come to receive the salary next month, and let my family's Wulang come to receive it, he doesn't know anything." Old man, shameless. But he didn't say anything, only looked at Lao Zhutu with admiration. "It's my time, let's go, you go first, I'll show you." Old Joe Tiu was happy, and immediately called his servants to drive up, and then dragged the old man in together. The people who gave the boxing ceremony were also the officials who released the salary. They were precocious to these people. Anyway, it was almost them who came to receive the salary every month. They met once a month. Seeing the old Joe Tiu, the officials also raised a smile. This one's daughter and son-in-law are popular people in front of His Majesty, especially now. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2490. Old Joe headed the boxing ceremony for Man Bao and Bai Shan, and the servants who followed also took out Mr. Zhuang's note and took it together. After they were all loaded into the car, they were about to go out, but old Joe had still waited for the old man. After he came out, he walked side by side and went out of the imperial city in 2 cars. The old man envied him very much. "Is the autumn harvest in your village?" The old Zhutu said, "I have received more than half of it, but it is still a little short, but it is not too long. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, it will take a few days to collect it all. Will the weather be good this year?" Old Zhutu almost laughed. "It was a little drought when I first planted the rice, but it started to rain soon, so it's good weather." The old man's family is also a landlord, but it's just a small landlord. Although he doesn't go to the fields in person, He has to personally watch the long-term workers and the tenants planting the land every year, so he has a good understanding of farming. Good harvest. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, your family has another big income. Oh, don't you have one at home too? How can our family be compared with yours? The old man said. The job field of our family is handed over to the household department for management, and he gets a fixed rent every year. The old Hutu suggested, you can apply for your own business. The old man shook his head. My home is not like yours. I only have two sons. One is an official and the other is still studying. It's not easy to take care of the land, so it's better to just take fixed rent. Otherwise, how could he envy Lao's Hutu so much? It is true that his daughter is promising, and he has many sons. No matter how many things his daughter lays down in front, there are people behind who can defend it. After leaving the imperial city, the old man and the old Hutu said goodbye. He and the old Hutu went different ways. His son rented a 2-entry yard on the edge of the inner city, and Joe's house was on the third square out of the imperial city. Go forward and then turn right for a while, it's very close. They are all foreigners, and even his son arrived in the capital a year earlier than his daughter, and as a result, everyone has a house. Old Joe returned home with everyone's envious eyes on his head. He instructed his servants, quickly send Mr. Zhuang's gift to his yard. He also picked out several items from Man Bao's boxing ceremony and put them together, which is considered a gift from Man Bao to Mr. Zhuang. For Mr. Zhuang, the Zhou family has the most respect, because everyone knows that if Mr. Zhuang hadn't brought Man Bao to read and write, Man Bao would not have been able to get out of the step in his life. The Bai family received the boxing gift, and Mrs. Lu asked what Lao's Hutu had added to Mr. Zhuang, and she added the same with a smile. By the time Man Bao and the four of them returned home from school, the family was already busy preparing for the festival. Man Bao helped Mr. Zhuang to enter the door. Bai Shan and Bai Erlang carried things for them at the back, and Mr. Lu was happy when he saw them when he went out. Sir and Man Bao are back, sir, let's have dinner together tonight, my mother-in-law said. The food is placed in the main hall. Mr. Zhuang smiled and asked, how many tables are there? There are 5 tables to be set up, Mrs. Lu said. Master Bai and Mrs. Bai are also invited. We will all have a reunion dinner together in the evening. We have many children, so we will eat it on both sides to prevent them from making trouble. Today on the 13th, everyone will have a lively reunion dinner first, and then wait until the 14th to eat each house. If you live in the capital, but still in the inner city, it would be a pity if you don't go to the light market and celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival with Wanman. Mr. Zhuang himself invited colleagues to go out to eat, drink and write poems that day. In fact, Bai Shan also had an appointment, and they were all from the Hanlin Academy. It was not easy for him to refuse directly, so he decided to go around and gather some members that day. Zhou Man has no such troubles, our Thai hospital rarely socializes outside. Bai Shan glanced at Man Bao. No, they were entertaining, but they didn't call you. Just like Zhao Liaolang and the others never asked her out when they went to Chunfenglu to socialize. The kitchens of the two families prepare together. After specifying the menu, the kitchen on the other side is responsible for several dishes. Therefore, the food is cooked quickly, and it is still warm when it is served, especially the steamed meat made by Xiaoqians, which has a strong aroma of meat. MRSGN took the little MRSGN and a few of MRS Lu and MRS Zheng's Bai to a table. There was no place for Man Bao at all. She could only turn around and sit with Bai Shan and the others. Bai Dalan is the oldest, and took the lead to take a piece of steamed pork for Bai Erlang, and said kindly, Erlang, there is an exam next month, eat more today. Bai Erlang also gave him a piece of meat. Brother, you also need to eat more. I heard that you were 2 away from the list last year. Last year, the number of Jinchi was low, only 12 were selected. Generally, those who fell off the list would not be ranked. Just 2. However, Bai Dalan is not very sad, because there is another person in front of him who is even worse. He is only one person away from winning. That person is Wang Yi, a student of Taixue. He is in the same class as Bai Dalan. When the news came out, they were almost vomiting blood. But Bai Dalan didn't vomit, because he saw Wang Yi, who was even worse. When Bai Shan and Man Bao saw it, they immediately gave them all kinds of meat and filled their bowls directly. I want to eat more, this time you all have to work hard to pass the exam. Bai Shan feels that Bai Dalan shouldn't have a problem, because he almost won last year, and after a year of precipitation, he should be more powerful, and Bai Shan lowered his voice and said, this year, there will be a little more places for scholars than last year. The amount of jinshi is different every year, and the number of jinshi is calculated by the Ministry of Personnel based on the existing data and the changes in the officialdom from last year to this year. For example, after the Izhu Wang Yi line was liquidated, more jinshi were recruited for the first and second admissions than in previous years, because the officialdom had to be replaced. Bai Shan walked in front of the imperial palace and listened to the adults and the emperor talking about these things a lot. He knew a lot of inside information, but he also knew what he could say and what he could not say. When it comes to the jinshi examination, he only has this little encouragement. Bai Dalan and Bai Erlang understood and did not continue the topic, but they were very excited. The more scholars they recruited, the better their chances. Especially Bai Erlang. His heart is a little empty, he knows himself, it's far worse than his big brother. Zhou Lijun was also at the same table with them. Seeing that they were all finished talking, she started talking about her own topic. Little aunt, I saw a shop in Dongfang and wanted to buy it. Man Bao was startled and asked, is there a lot of expensive shops there? Zhou Lijun nodded, I've been talking for a long time, but I still need 8,670 taels, and it's not enough to lose one tael. Bai Shan and the others were also taken aback and asked, what store is so expensive? It's mainly in Dongfang. That street sells silk and rouge gouache. The famous silver buildings in the capital are also there, so it's very expensive. Man Bao asked, what do you buy it for? See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2491. Zhou Lijun's eyes glowed, and he said, the ointments, whitening creams, and acne-removing creams made by the seller. She said, little auntie, let's eat first, and I'll settle the bill for you after eating. Man Bao couldn't help but ask, do we have so much money at home now? There is none in the public, Zhou Lijun said, most of the money in the family now belongs to the fourth uncle. But Thursday Lang is now on the grassland. By the way, Xiang Mingxiu also followed Thursday Lang to the grassland. He has only been there for a month, and now he is still receiving various goods on the grassland. He won't be back until at least the end of September. So Zhou Lijun wants each family to come up with the money. If the aunt agrees to this, it will be half the battle. Man Bao asked, how much money does Gong Zhong have now? Zhou Lijun, more than 300 taels. Not a lot after all. When I came to the capital on Thursday, I took out the ledger and divided all the money I made from last autumn to this summer. Now the money in the public is still selling ointments in these months, and the restaurant operation should be money that goes to the public. Thinking of the money she got this year and the money she brought back in exchange for the gems and spices, Man Bao suddenly became angry. Okay, let's buy it. The gems and spices that Man Bao gave to Shiro Lang didn't even keep the hard work, and basically brought back as much as she sold. First sold in the capital, then all the way south, went to Yizhu to make a lap, sold everything in hand, and made a lot of money. In addition to the money that Zhou Man shared from the public this year, it was even more. But why did Zhou Lijun think about buying a shop? You must know that they now rent a yard specializing in ointments and various creams. Old customers buy them directly, and sometimes they bring new customers. They make a lot of money. After dinner, Zhou Lejun held a cup of tea and talked to Zhou Man in the yard. Originally, the 5 ants and the others are limited in what they can do, and these are the only people in the capital who can afford these whitening creams and acne creams, so I think there is no need to buy a shop. But during this period of time, because of cowpox, many people came to buy Danian ointment with us, and even a pharmacist from outside came to the door, so I think we need a shop, and it has to be one good shop. Man Bao pondered, but we only have these kinds of creams, will it be too little? Zhou Lejun said, I used to think it was less, but I don't think so now. There are quite a few people who have used our whitening cream in the past 2 years, not only for ladies, but also for some gentlemen, especially the acne cream, which sells very well. So I thought it would be good to be able to do these things well, and with my sister's current ability and age, there will be more recipes in the future. Man Bao thought it made sense, so he nodded. Okay, how much money do I have to pay? Zhou Lejun said, I have calculated, these recipes are all given by your aunt, so you take 10% of the silver, and the other rooms, I only count one room, then excluding yours, there are 7 rooms, and the family shares 30% of the cost to claim 10% of the share. Man Bao was startled, 1 room and 1%. Zhou Lejun nodded, that's right, 10% per room, that's 80% in total, and the remaining 20% is for the public. Every year, 10% of the dividends should be left to run the shop, and the remaining 10% will be given to grandma. That is to say, their 7 rooms are responsible for sharing the public share. Man Bao thought for a while, but didn't object. Will other rooms agree? Zhou Lejun said with a smile, as long as you agree, sister-in-law, the other rooms will agree. The uncle and aunt, needless to say, they will definitely follow the little aunt. Her mother doesn't care, she can persuade her father. The third uncle will listen to the grandfather, the fourth uncle, the fifth uncle, the sixth uncle and the little aunt are the best, and they will not object. Zhou Lejun smiled and said, at that time, I will set a good rule, and the fourth and fifth aunts can go to the back of the shop to do chores, specializing in making ointments, and get paid every month. In this way, everyone is not idle, and they can still count money. Man Bao asked, what's your estimated initial investment cost? Zhou Lejun hesitated for a moment and said, 10,000 taels. People like Man Bao can't help but stunned, it's really too expensive. I'm fine. Will other houses be willing to pay so much money? She felt that this was almost emptying the house of each house. Although Chu Youlang has made a lot of money in recent years, he can earn a few hundred or more than 1,000 taels once a year after deducting all the costs. Man Bao remembers what was recorded in the account book. The year before last was the most profitable. He made 2,800 taels, but at that time it was Shai Zuolang who took the risk to buy pearls, but he stopped doing this business after that. First, I am afraid that I will change my business registration if I do too much. Second, it is indeed more dangerous to enter pearls. Then so much money is divided into many parts, after all, everyone has a part in it. However, this amount of money is still a lot, at least the amount of money that the old Zhou family had been saving for 7 or 8 years. So even Lao Zhutu couldn't help but sigh, it's no wonder that people who have the ability want to do business instead of farming. But doing business, especially a business like Shai Zilang, is indeed hard work. It can be seen from the face of Shishulang. In recent years, he has aged much faster than Wushulang and Saturday Lang. Under the wind and the sun, he is still worse. A little bit is not the most handsome brother of Man Bao. There is no pressure for Man Bao to pay 1,300 taels, because she has many ways to get money, but it is difficult to pay 1,300 taels for other rooms. Especially the big brother and the third brother. At night, Man Bao quietly sneaked over to find her sister-in-law. When Zhou Dalan saw her coming, he got up and went to the outer room, and handed the inner room to their aunt and sister-in-law to talk. Man Bao quietly asked Xiao Qian, "Sister-in-law, how much money have you and eldest brother saved?" Little Qian asked her, "Are you short of money to spend?" Man Bao shook his head, whispered that Lejun wanted to buy a shop, and then whispered, "Lejun has figured it out in private. After buying the shop, he will be able to earn back the money for buying the shop about a year later." Xiao Qian was stunned. "Do you make so much money?" Man Bao said reservedly, "The main reason is that we are catching up with acne. Many people know about the creams such as acne cream and whitening cream because of the light ointment. Some gentlemen love to buy them more than women. Now the business is doing a lot better. Lejun has calculated in private, and the current sales have at least doubled compared to before. So they have to hire someone." MRSGN glanced outside, and then asked in a low voice, "How much money do we have to pay for our big house?" "You say how much you have?" Little Qian said, "It's more than 800 taels." Man Bao was startled and asked, "Why are there so few?" Xiao Qian said with a smile, "You forgot, Data just got married not long ago. At that time, we bought 20 acres of land for him in the suburbs of Beijing as a dowry gift, plus other things. It cost a lot one after another. The 3 heads are not too small now, and we are talking to him recently." When Xiao Qian said this, he sighed, "The capital is different from our village, and now our family is different from before. In the past, it only cost 5 or 6 taels to marry a daughter-in-law in the village, plus a banquet, 7 or 8 taels was enough. Looking at it now, at least 100 taels is enough. I'm really sorry, I indulged in dinner today and ate some barbecue. Maybe it wasn't very clean, so I vomited and had diarrhea. I was in a bad state. I wanted to ask for a leave." Chapter, another book is on leave. I won't be uploading it tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2492. Xiao Qian said, "Not counting the 3 heads, he may not be able to settle in the capital in the future, but here in the big head, his daughter-in-law is an imperial physician, so it would be better to buy a house in the capital in the future. And the house in the capital is too expensive, and their family has to save for many years at least to buy it." Xiao Qian asked again, "How much does it cost to buy a shop? Do you want 2,000 taels?" Now their restaurant was about the same price when they bought it. Man Bao said, "Not only this price, but all the costs are about 10,000 taels." Xiao Qian's mouth opened wide, "Where is this shop? It's like buying Jinshan." Man Bao reassured her, "I earn a lot, I trust Lejun's eyes." Xiao Qian also believed it, but their family didn't have so much money. She whispered, "Can I buy less? How many shares can I buy if I pay 800 taels?" Man Bao said with a smile, "Sister-in-law, this share is hard to come by. I have seen Lejun's account. If the account is as she calculated, then we will be able to earn back the cost of investment in the first year, and in the future. The shop is a net profit after removing the cost of making the ointment." MRSGN didn't quite believe it. "I know the ointment we make at home, and occasionally I go to help. I heard Lejun say that a bottle of moisturizing cream only earns 200 or 300 cents, how much do you have to sell a day?" "Bottle, only make a full 10,000 taels a year." Man Bao said, "Lejun and the 4th brother have both found a businessman. As long as our shop can open, they can immediately take the money and come up to ask for goods. This is also the reason why Zhou Lejun asked for a cost of 10,000 taels. Except for the 8,670 taels needed to buy a shop, the rest of the decoration and shelves and other things cost not much." She has seen Lejun's calculation list. The money used for decoration is only 18 taels, and the rest is used to buy raw materials. And the large-scale production of ointment and white cream is for the purpose of selling it to the merchants who come to buy it. That is to say, Their shop is not only for retail, but also wholesale to those merchants, just like those cloth houses. Zhou Lijun obviously didn't have a temporary idea. She has planned for a long time. She is different from Shi Zhuolang. Shi Zhuolang is a person who says what to do. She is different. From having this idea to bringing it up, she prepared for 3 years. When she was recommending to various ladies with moisturizing cream in her arms, she wanted to buy a shop or rent a shop, but because there were few people who bought it at that time, a can of moisturizing cream could be used for 3 or 2 months. And some people do not use it diligently, and some can use it for a year. So she didn't dare to take the risk. She has been waiting. During this period, she recommended their family's whitening cream and various ointments and creams to the merchants she knew when she had time. She also took Shi Rolang together. Under the recommendation of the two, she also recommended the family's moisturizing cream and various ointments and creams. The reputation of Zhuji, and now many people outside know about Zhuji's creams and ointments. Coupled with the light printing cream produced by the cowpox planting this time, Zhou Lijun knew that her opportunity was coming, and at the same time, their family's opportunity was also coming. She wants to open a shop that sells these ointments and creams. As long as she can make money and let her niece show her ambition, Man Bao will naturally not object. She is very confident about it. She whispered to Xiao Qianxi, "This ointment and cream are not worrying about the market. Lijun and the fourth brother have been planning for this for 2 years. If you don't buy the full amount, it will be a big loss." She said, "Believe it or not, if you say that you don't have enough money, the fourth brother will snap up the share you missed." Xiao Qian said, "I won't give it to him, I will give it to you." "Man Bao, aren't you rich? You will pay for it when the time comes." Man Bao smiled and said, "No, I will lend you and eldest brother the money, and you will pay me back when you earn money." When Xiao Qian was about to speak, Man Bao whispered, "I have calculated, if you don't have enough money, brother and sister-in-law, then the third brother will definitely not have enough money. I will make up for the part you lack." Little Qian stopped talking. Man Bao said in a low voice, "You and the eldest brother are the eldest brother, and you can't be less than others in this regard, otherwise the relationship between the brothers is good now, and it is not obvious to look at. In the future, you and the eldest brother will bow their heads. How do you care about your brothers and sisters?" Little Qian sighed, "Your third brother is honest. He is in charge of the land at home now. Ordinarily, your elder brother and I should stay at home." Man Bao smiled and said, "So, I will make up for the third brother's share of the money, and then pay it back to me when you make money. As for the other rooms, the money is definitely enough. Because only 40% of the money earned by individuals is paid to the public middle school, like the couples like Tuesday Lang, Thursday Lang, Friday Lang, and Saturday Lang, they all have their own abilities, so they make a lot of money every year, and the rest is divided into the public middle school. Money." In contrast, Zhou Dalin and Zhou Zhoulang, who are both honest people, basically swirl around the fields, and the fields belong to the public, so they earn very little private housing. The old Zhutu and the Qian family also knew that the big room and the third room were at a loss when they shared the money, so they would occasionally subsidize secretly in private, but they still had a daughter who was not married, so the subsidy was limited. It's just to stuff a few pieces of broken silver occasionally, or let Shiro go back with more meat when he returns to his hometown. Man Bao found out the private house of the eldest brother and sister-in-law, and had a rough estimate of the third brother's family. Well, the third brother can't make more money than the eldest brother. Mainly because the eldest brother has a sister-in-law, and the sister-in-law goes to the restaurant to make steamed meat, etc. It is also paid for, and after going back and forth, I save a little private house. The third brother really has almost no private income. After Man Bao made up his mind, he convened his family for a meeting. Of course, Tuesday Lang and Wednesday Lang, who were far away in Qilai village, and Thursday Lang on the grassland could not attend the meeting. But they all have their own sons as representatives. Zhou Liwei doesn't have any opinions, and Zhou Legu doesn't have any. Before his parents left, he told him to take care of his younger brother and listen to his grandmother and sister-in-law for the rest. Everyone was stunned by 10,000 taels. Zhou Lejun held an abacus for them to settle accounts, and showed them the channels she had negotiated so far, meaning that as long as it was made, someone would buy it. Old Zhutu was the first to ask the question: since we have found a market, we can directly make ointments and sell them to them. Why do we need to spend more than 8,000 taels to buy a shop? Fang Shi and the others also wondered about this. This Friday, Lang and the others all knew it, and they said to the old Zhou, "Father, if you don't have a shop, merchants outside wouldn't dare to buy a lot of things that touch your face." Zhou Li nodded and explained in more detail, "Now, most of these ointments in our family are sold to people in the capital. These people were my aunt's patients at first, and they bought it because they trusted my aunt. Later, I thought it would be useful to recommend one. That's why the current sales volume, but if there is no shop, people who don't know outside will not dare to buy it." In the beginning, Zhou Lejun followed behind Man Bao's butt to enter and exit those high-profile households, selling bottle by bottle. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2493. Zhou Lejun said, "The merchants that my fourth uncle and I are looking for have used our ointments and creams before, and they know that our products are good, but if we don't have a shop or a workshop registered with the imperial court, they will not dare to buy it on a large scale. I thought, if we want to do it, we need to do it well," she said. "Our ointments and creams are not cheap, and we are dealing with people who have a wealth of assets. In this case, this shop cannot be casual. Find a place. There is a street specializing in rouge gouache and silk and satin on the Dongfang side of the inner city. There are also silver buildings and bookstores there. It can be said that the most profitable shop in the entire Jin dynasty is there. I picked this one. The shop is actually not expensive. I have asked about a more expensive shop, and it may cost 20 million yuan to buy it." Old Zhutu felt his heart skip a beat and asked, "How much is $20 million? Man Bao said, "It's 20,000 taels." Zhou Lejun nodded and said, "Because I said that we have silver, I said that I came down to this shop. If the copper money given is less than 9 million yuan, they will not sell it. There is still less silver and less gold. The former can still be circulated, while the latter is not in private circulation at all, but only exists in particularly large transactions. Silver is more convenient to transport, so merchants like it very much, which is one of the reasons why the exchange of copper coins for silver is always high. And silver can also be used for jewelry, much less. In fact, Zhou's family also has a lot of copper coins, but more of them are silver. Thanks to Zhou Lejun, she has always asked Zhou Lejun to exchange for silver at a low price whenever there is a chance. When doing business, if you can settle with silver, you should never use copper. In addition, she is often in the capital, and she can always pay attention to the exchange rate of silver in places such as silver buildings, pawn shops, and government offices. As long as the price of silver is slightly lower, she will exchange the copper coins at home for silver. Not only is it easy to store, but now when she needs silver, she can quickly take it out. Of course, silver is the most distributed among the houses through her hands. Old Zhutu was not very good at arithmetic. He originally thought that a shop with more than 8,000 taels was expensive. Now, if it was converted into a shop with $9 million, he felt that it was more expensive, so he didn't say anything. Qian looked at them. "What do you mean by each room?" Zhou Lejun said first, my aunt has already agreed that she will accept the 10% share. I mean, other rooms will also accept 10%, but except for the aunt, including me, the 10% share will be paid 1%. The 30% of the money is considered to be divided into the 20% of the Gongzhong. Fang Ziyi belongs to the aunt, so she doesn't have to pay this money. Everyone has no opinion on this. Zhou Liwei raised his hand and asked, it can only be recognized by one room, can I recognize it alone? No, Zhou Lejun said solemnly, even if you don't want other rooms, you should evenly divide them into each room. If the head of the room doesn't want it, you can divide it further, only one room per room. Zhou Liwei pondered for a while and objected to his sister, then how can you subscribe by yourself, you are also our second room. Zhou Li coughed lightly, are you going to fight with your second sister? Zhou Lejun said, I'm married. That aunt. Zhou Lejun said, I manage at least half of the family's business. I can't manage it in vain. I'm not convinced if I just want the wages. I want the right to subscribe. Man Bao nodded again and again, that is, to work for you for nothing. Zhou Liwei nodded, okay. She kept silent, and when they finished speaking, she looked at her sons and daughters-in-law, who were present, and asked, what do you mean? Mr. Fang pondered for a moment and said, before the child's father left, he said that if the family wants to buy a shop, we'll just follow. Friday Lang and Saturday Lang also had no problem. They knew it when they played with Man Bao and Zhou Lejun and their siblings when they were children. The smartest person in the family is Man Bao, and then the fourth brother and Lejun. Not to mention the fourth brother, he is the most slick, but Lejun is the leader of the settlement, more stable than the fourth brother, at least it will be hard to lose money if you follow her. She nodded, Zhou Liwei of the second room and Zhou Lego of the third room also said there was no problem, and her eyes fell on Zhou Dalin. Zhou Dalin said, I have no opinion. The matter is so settled. Zhou Lejun was refreshed and said, in this case, all the houses should put together the money. I will pay the deposit tomorrow. On the 16th day, I will collect enough money to buy the shop, and strive to open the shop before Chongyang. The crowd dispersed. Qian stopped Zhou Dalin and asked him to stay and speak. When everyone went out, she asked him, how many private rooms do your husband and wife have? Zhou Dalin scratched his head and said, more than 800. She sighed, that's still a lot, I've been holding the money for the third child, and it's only more than 800. I think it cost a lot to marry a wife before, and you should be a lot worse. What are you going to do with this money? Zhou Dalin said, Man Bao came to find the child's mother last night and said that she lent us the 500 taels that were missing. She frowned slightly, Man Bao is about to get married, and she is going to prepare a dowry. She turned her head and asked Lao Zhutu, do you know how much money Man Bao has? Old Zhou shook his head, I don't know, Lejun guesses he knows. She pondered for a moment and then said, forget it, since she wants to lend you, then you can take it. Zhou Dalin nodded and stepped back. When the son left, she said to the old Zhutu, there is no need to save the money, let's buy a dowry for Man Bao. Old Zhou Tiou glanced at her and said, I'm ready, you really want to lend them our private house? She squeezed him and said, why are you sour? Why am I? It's not this family. If a bowl of water is not level, this family will disband sooner or later. She said, didn't you listen to the second girl, this shop is making money, I don't think when I get money now, when I make money in the future, if any room is missing, I will definitely feel resentful when I look back on what happened today, don't worry about it. Right or wrong, it's easy to quarrel when you have grievances, and a lot of quarrels will hurt people's hearts, and if people's hearts hurt, the family will break up, otherwise why do you think the second girl won't let her share her share? If it can be recognized personally, Man Bao can take everything they don't want in one breath, and Shiro, Lejun, Liwei, even Wulang and Liaolang have spare power, then the big room and the third room will be weakened, and the shop will be in the future. The bigger the business is, the bigger the gap will be, not to mention the next generation. I am afraid that this generation will have a quarrel. So she wants to be flat, at least, as much as the share of other rooms, the big room and the third room, especially the big room, they will be in charge of the family in the future, so they can't be weaker than the younger brothers and sisters below, otherwise if it comes out, it will be regarded as a fart. Relationships are very important. The brothers of the Zhou family have a good relationship, but they also need to put their interests in the right place. See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2494. Old Zhutu and Qian's family have some private houses. They originally thought that if the big house and the third house didn't join hands, they would help, but since Manbao took the initiative to lend them, it would be difficult for the two old people to intervene. Well, this is also a bowl of water level. The couple, who had a bowl of water, took out their account books and carefully distinguished the numbers on it, and the old Zhutu said, I have seen many zhuangzi and fields, alas, the land in the capital is too expensive, and the land in Yangzhou is not too expensive. It's cheap, and there aren't many people selling the land, so I think it's better to buy this one in Yangzhou. It's not zhuangzi, but it's sold by a big family, with an area of 80 acres. Old Zhou Tiou took out a note, scratched his face and said, 7 taels of silver per mu. I asked 5 taels before, and he figured it out for me, but I forgot. Anyway, it's more than 500 taels, and it's out. With this part of the money, we don't have much money left. What else can we buy her? Qian she didn't understand, but the problem was not big. She said, let's buy land. She said, the fabrics have been rewarded a lot by the palace and the nobles, and we can't buy better ones, so we will buy 2 more red cloths, pay for the wedding dresses custom made by the embroidery workshop, and the rest are all by her land. There is no shortage of treasures in the house. If you have a shop, you can't buy a shop with this money in Beijing, so you can only buy land. In the end, the farm is the property of the imperial court, and it is not very stable. She should have a few pieces of land of her own, Qian said. Looking back, you are still asking about the land in Yangzhou. When you buy the land, it will still be rented to tenants. As long as there is land, people will not be hungry. Old Zhou Tiou responded and stood on tiptoe for another matter. What do you think the Bai family will give as a dowry? Qian looked up at him and said, it won't be less anyway. But I haven't seen them buy anything recently. Are they preparing a betrothal gift? Zhou Lizhong, who walked out of the yard, waited for his uncles and aunts to return to the house, then bumped into Zhou Liwei, winked and said, okay, you will sing Lejun's face. Zhou Liwei blushed slightly and said, I'm going to talk about bad things first. There are many people in the family now, so naturally I need to explain more to avoid misunderstandings. Zhou Lizhong nodded, turned his head and said with a smile to Zhou Lejun, I'll leave this to you, but will it open sooner in September? Should I wait until after my sister-in-law gets married? Zhou Lejun shook his head, it's too late, September is just right, and autumn is dry, just use moisturizing cream and whitening cream. Zhou Li nodded and frowned. He had the same question as his grandfather. By the way, is the Bai family preparing a dowry? I haven't seen anything added there when I came back several times. Of course there are. Mrs. Lu started to have people move things into the newly bought house one after another since last month. Every now and then, she would take the Zheng family to go out to the newly bought house to check what was delivered. Not to mention the title deed, all kinds of ornaments, jade, porcelain, and some antique calligraphy and paintings and books prepared by her were also sent one after another from Longzhou and Qilai village. Of course, most of her things went to Qilai village with her when she moved. Only some things were too heavy to carry, so they stayed in the old house in Longzhou. She also didn't expect Bai Shan to get married in the capital. In order to make the dowry look good, she asked people to go back to Qilai village to fetch some things and give Bai Shan a betrothal gift together with some things left in Longzhou. Not to mention other people, even Zheng's daughter-in-law was horrified when she saw it, and couldn't help but ask, "Mother, are these all dowry gifts?" Mrs. Lu nodded with a smile, and said, "This time is different from the past, whether it is Manbao or Shanbao, the people they make friends with are not low, and there are also many people. After looking at this, we have to make some preparations for the future, so Shanbao's dowry can't be bad, so that Manbao's dowry can also hold up." She said, "I know what those people think outside, but they think that our Bai clan has fallen, and Shanbao has no father or brother to help him, and Manbao was born in a poor family. For this wedding, I will let them take a look at the heritage of the two families. The Zhou family has no background, but the Bai family has it. Based on what Mrs. Lu knows about the Zhou family, how many betrothal gifts she has sent in the past, I am afraid that in the end, except for cash, they will accompany them back. The cash can also be exchanged for other more decent dowries. Although these things changed from the Bai families to Zhou man's personal property, but she is only a grandson, isn't the grandson's daughter-in-law's?" Mrs. Liu's eyes were bright, and it was time for those in the family to see if their branch was lost. Across a corridor from Mrs. Liu, Manbao from the 2 yards was crawling over to close the window. After closing the window, she sat cross-legged on the bed and entered the space, and counted her money. In June, when Thursday Lang returned to Beijing, he gave her the money for selling gems and spices, most of which was silver, and the rest was copper. Manbao didn't put the copper coins into the space, it took up too much space. Generally speaking, she would only put a dozen coins in it, and if it was not enough, she would go home and put some in. The rest of the copper coins were placed in the penthouse next to her, which she used as a warehouse, and contained all the belongings that she could not store in the space. Among them, there are several sacks of copper coins. Manbao went to open the box. Several boxes were filled with silver. There was a neat official seal, and a piece of silver that was not neat, but the quality was okay. She can count all her treasures. Before she counted the money, she wrote a label on the box, and she also had her own ledger, so it was easy to know how much money she had. She counted it and was relieved to find that there was a lot of money, so she released the 2 boxes and threw them in the corner of the wall. The next day, Zhou Dalin and Xiao Qian were called to count the money quietly. 500 taels is not too light. Zhou Dalin took 2 large baskets and put them in, then put a lid on them, and went back with Xiao Qian alone with a basket. I also greeted people along the way, and no one knew that there was silver in the big basket. Manbao felt that this method was very good, so he also dug out 2 baskets with silver and went to Zhou Legu. "You have to write me an IOU on your father's behalf." Zhou Legu was also worried about not having enough money. Hearing this, he nodded immediately. After seeing the silver in the basket, he asked strangely, "How do you put it in the basket? It's so inconspicuous that no one notices it." When Zhou Legu heard this, he lowered his voice and asked, "Little aunt, can't I tell my family about this?" Manbao asked, "You can tell your family what to do, just tell your parents." Zhou Legu was entangled. "Can't you tell the third brother? The third brother and I are the best, I can't hide many things from him." "Then tell him," Manbao said, "he owes me money too." Zhou Legu was startled and asked, "How much do you owe?" "Like you, it's 500 taels. See you tomorrow."